I'm Benjamin Hall, and I'm searching for heroes. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me again today. And we're going to have a special podcast this week, and that's because I'm decided to do a monologue with you guys. And that's just an opportunity I sometimes get to sit down and tell you some of the things that I've been jotting down, things that I've been writing, things that I've been thinking about. And the truth is that happens quite a lot to me. Ever since the bombing in Ukraine, there are moments when I sit down and I ask myself a whole lot of questions. I ask myself questions about how different my life has become, what I have lost in my life. More importantly, I think about how much better my life has become. And it is that last one, how much better my life has become, which I find so interesting, which so many people around me find so fascinating, because I've been absolutely blessed to be an eternal optimist. And from the minute this happened in March 2022, I never once thought of what had been taken. I thought of what I could do to get through it and to become a better, stronger person. And I've been trying recently to think specifically of how that's possible, and in turn, hopefully find ways of sharing that with other people. And that's because, look, many people won't have gone through what I've gone through. They won't have the injuries I've gone through, but everybody in their lives goes through something difficult. Everybody. It doesn't have to be physical injuries. It can be mental health. It can be anxiety. It can be families breaking down. It can be financial. But with each one of those problems, it's so important for us to find a way through, and often it's the same way through. So, look, I'm going to go off script today and just talk to you. I'm going to start off with 4 key words that I look at and I think really help me get through this. And they are trust, accept, adapt, and embrace. Now, to break those all down, I start off with trust, because I think that perhaps the most important thing that you must find, and that all of us have, is that you must trust when bad things happen. You must trust that we all have enough strength and the resilience in us to get through it. I'm a firm believer that that is in every single one of us, that we all have that ability. Humans and animals are survival machines. And inside each of us is that resilience. And so when something happens, when a big hurdle, when something is heading your way, first of all, trust the knowledge that you have the resilience and you can counter and face up to anything that's going to happen. The next word that I use is accept. Very quickly, if something bad happens, or when it happened to me, you have to accept it has happened. The worst thing you can be doing is constantly worrying or doubting or feeling anger that it has happened. Instead, if you're going to find your way through it, you accept it. Okay, this has happened. How do we find a way through it? What's the next step? I'm going to do it no matter what. So it's trust, then accept, and then adapt. Because when something big happens to you, when there is a crisis of any kind, things will have to be different. You will have to change to counter them. And you've got to be willing to change. You've got to be willing to adapt. If a wall comes up in front of you, you either knock it down, you find a way around it, you climb over it, you dig under it. You adapt to that wall. You don't let that wall stop you. And if you are open to adapting, and if you find joy in learning new things, that's what adapting is about. It's saying, okay, this is difficult. This is something I have to get across, but it's going to be great when I find a way around it. How rewarding will that be? And I can tell you personally, it is rewarding. Nothing is more rewarding in life than adapting to something, getting across and through it, and realizing that you can, and you did. That backs up the sense that we all have that resilience inside us. We'll be back in a moment with Searching for Heroes. And then the last word I had was embrace. And I think that you have to learn to embrace bad things. You can either lose yourself in a dark hole, you can lock yourself away from the world, you can not talk or share about things because they've been bad, or you can embrace them and realize they're part of your life. Now, I'll just compare that to my personal experience. I have prosthetics. I see out of one eye. I can't use a thumb on my left. I've got numerous other things going on, but I don't hide from any of those. I embrace them. When I walk down the street, I'm as proud as can be about what I've got and the way I look and how I walk and all the rest of it. Because again, if you don't embrace it, if you don't make it and accept that it's part of you, it's going to hold you back as well. And I suppose those were the 4 words that I began by thinking about and tried to apply to myself and how I got through things. Trust, accept, adapt, and embrace. Now, I've also been thinking about the different moments of getting through something really difficult. There's the initial moment as soon as it happens. In my case, when the bombs landed and we were right there in that situation. And then there are other occasions that can go on for a while. And each of those has to be addressed differently. I remember the initial moment, as soon as those bombs landed. And in some senses, that was the clearest path, the clearest moment to get through. Because none of the small worries mattered. At that point, it was staying alive and figuring out, how could I get home? How can I stay alive? Not bleed out. But then I kept encountering other hurdles. And quite often, I remember thinking that just as you've gotten over one difficult thing, another difficult thing comes at you. And you have to learn to accept that. And also sometimes to expect it. Because if you let each wave knock you down a little bit more, the continuing waves can weigh you down as well. So I suppose resilience can be both short-term, i.e. in that very moment, but it also has to be played out sometimes in the long term. And I think we all know, and I certainly know, that life is forever full of ups and downs. There is no straight line in life. And again, once you learn that, once you realize that life has ups and life has downs, and you try and embrace them all, well, boy, what more of an exciting place does it become? Yeah, they might be difficult, but that's what makes life so special. I know I mentioned earlier that I like to think that many of these work for whatever difficulty you're going through, but I've also thought a lot about physical pain. And that's something else that I've been writing about and thinking about. And I remember during my own experience, that moment where I realized it was going to be a part of who I was. And instead of hiding from it or being scared of it, again, using that word, I embraced it. And a message, I suppose, to anyone out there who's got chronic pain or who has been through something difficult. I remember thinking that the pain is there to tell me something's wrong. The pain is a sign that I have to try and improve myself. The pain is on my side. And whenever it got too bad, I remember looking at it straight eye to eye almost. And I remember thinking, is that all you've got? Bring it on. Bring on the next level. Let's see how much you can do. And strangely enough, when you look it in the eyes and you stop being afraid of it, I found that to be another great way of getting through some of the toughest moments. By realizing that we were perhaps on the same path, and if we weren't, that I could certainly beat it. So I suppose much of it is about trying to take what is so bad and try and flip it. Try to find the positives in it. Look, and something else that I'm learning about is faith. It played a pretty significant role in my upbringing, and it played a significant role in my recovery. And that is something that I will continue returning to as I continue my search for heroes. Thank you so much for joining me today, everybody. And I'll speak to you next week. Thanks for listening to Searching for Heroes. Listen ad-free with a Fox News Podcasts Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Prime members can listen to this show ad-free on the Amazon Music app.